Hi everyone, welcome to week 9 of your Pharmacy Procedures 1 course. This week we are going to be looking at the actual medication labels and dosage calculations for parenteral drugs. So the first thing you have to understand is what exactly is a parenteral drug. Parenteral means the route in which the medicine is given. So when we talk about a parenteral drug, what we're talking about is drugs that are administered using any one of the parenteral routes. So parenteral simply means anything but through the digestive system. So these are going to be things that they could be IV, and of course that is the most common parenteral route. IM, which is intramuscular. We have subcutaneous, that's the second most common. That just means right under the skin. Intradermal is in the skin. Anything that doesn't go through the digestive system actually falls into this bucket. However, these are the most common parenteral routes and the ones that we're going to be focusing on in this chapter. So what we're going to be looking at is a lot of different things. First of all is the packaging. The way parenteral medications come packed is they might be in an ampule. An ampule is just a small little container that you can break the top off of. We have vials. Those would have like a rubber stopper type of thing on it where you would use a syringe to draw it out. Then of course we have pre-filled syringes, so they're already filled. We have solutions that are in bags, and we also have solutions that are in bottles. So those are all some of the different types of ways you might see some of these parenteral medications packaged. When we talk about intramuscular solutions, anytime we're talking about an intramuscular solution, we're talking about somewhere between a 0.5 milliliter and a 3 ml dose. Anything that is more than a 3 ml dose that you might calculate for an intramuscular solution, that should be a red flag. So if you saw something that said it's going to be more than 3 milliliters and it's supposed to be administered IM, that's a big red flag to go back and check to see how you did on your calculations, because likely you did something incorrect. When we talk about subcutaneous, again, those are going to be in anywhere between 0.5 and 1 mil. Again, if you see something more than that 1 mil, that's a good indication that you might want to go back and recalculate. Something might be wrong. Now, when they say they're using these types of syringes, the 3 mil or the TB syringe, that just means it's in that size syringe. It doesn't mean that's the total quantity that would be in there. So again, the subcutaneous solutions typically are between a 0.5 ml and 1 ml, but the actual container that we use them in could have a volume up to 3 mils, but the dose itself usually is between 0.5 and 1. When we talk about IV medication, we're going to be doing a couple of things. It's really a two-step process. So the first step is to prepare the dose of the actual medication. Then we're going to put that medication into whatever IV fluid we might be using. So, maybe we're putting it in D5W, which is dextrose 5%. Maybe we're putting it in normal saline. Normal saline has a strength of 0.9%. So we're going to take that medication, whatever it is, and we're going to put it into the IV fluid. So both of those things kind of go hand in hand. Not only do we have to correctly calculate the dose, but we also have to make sure that we're diluting it in the right IV fluid. There are charts and books and lots of information out there so that you can check to make sure that what the doctor ordered is something that can be done. For example, some medications cannot be diluted in normal saline. So you would want to make sure that you know which ones can and which ones can't. That information is also found on the actual label of the medication. So it's another great tool, another great way to find that information. When you actually look at a solution label, you're going to see it measured in a couple different ways. You might see it measured using metric, where they're going to tell you how many milligrams per mil, something like that, grams per mil, micrograms per mil. But whatever the strength is per milliliter or per whatever quantity, that's one way to indicate the strength. The other way is by percent, so 1% solution. Another thing you might see is a ratio. So you'll see here's an example, 5,000 to 1 is a heparin ratio. Or you might see it as the international units. So again, several different ways you might see it. And last but not least is milliequivalents, which is just another unit of measure. So you could see the drug label, the drug information on the label in any of those ways. So the metric system, using a fraction, a percent, a ratio, international units, milliequivalents. Those are all things that you're going to see. When we look at any kind of parenteral solution, a lot of times the typing on these labels are going to be very, very small. So we just want to make sure that we are, looking at it and reading it appropriately. If you can't read it, ask someone for help. You don't want to make a mistake on something like this. So the next few slides are going to all be example problems on how to do some of these calculations. Here's an example of one. We have a prescription for atropine, 1 per 150 grains subcutaneously. And then they tell you, well, this is what the actual label says, atropine 0.4 milligrams per mil. And we got to figure out how many milliliters we're going to give. The doctor wants them to have 1 out of 150 grains, and the label says 0.4 milligrams. So we're going to have to do some things to get to that point. So the first thing we're going to have to do is convert grains to milligrams. So we're going to use that basic formula, and you're going to find that if you actually do the math, that you're going to get, it's going to be equal to 1 milliliter. And then there's a few other examples on here of how to get from point A to point B. Here's another one. We have 2 milligrams IV, and we're supposed to be giving 4 milligrams per mil. So it contains 4 milligrams per mil. Sorry about that. So what would you going to do? What's ordered goes on top, the 2 milligrams. What we have available goes on bottom, 4 milligrams, times the unit of measure, which is 1 mil. So if you're confused about any of these, if you're not sure how to do them as you go through these example problems, please make sure you reach out to me. There's several examples in this handout, but I want to make sure that you are clear and you know what you're doing. So again, with every single problem, you're going to want to make sure that you're always putting the what the doctor ordered on top, how the medicine comes on the bottom, times the unit of measure. So, and I know I was a little confusing probably with the very first problem. Let's pop it back to that one real quick. On problem number 1, the doctor ordered 1 out of 150 grains. The first thing you wanted to do before using the formula on this one was convert grains to milligrams. Since there's 60 grains in every milligram, that's where this 0.4 comes from. So, if you're confused on this one especially, reach out to me and I'll be happy to go over it with you again. But converting grains to milligrams first, because these two units of measure must be the same. Since what the doctor ordered and what we have in stock were not the same units of measure, we want to change them so that they are. So again, go through these 5 examples. If you've got any questions or problems, please reach out and let me know. I'd be happy to help you, and have a great week.